Hello everybody, Infernape Shinjo here, and welcome to today's video. And today I am finally ripping the band-aid off and discussing what if I remade Team Rocket's teams. It's a video idea I've been tossing around for a while, and realistically it's the only one that I could think to do since I've remade all the other anime-based teams. But yeah, Team Rocket's teams are definitely very interesting. They've had a variety of Pokemon on their team, and I've learned by looking through what they do have is it doesn't matter whether it's a fully evolved Pokemon or a base stage Pokemon, because Jesse had a Gourgeist and Kalos, for example, a fully evolved Mon, and they still lose pretty consistently. So for this video, I am going to replace the Mons that they've had, or most of the Mons that they have, and pick other Mons that I feel would make more sense and could bring some interesting comedy aspect for Team Rocket, because we know Team Rocket's all about comedy. So we're gonna start with Kanto and Johto, and I'm grouping them both together because most everywhere I've seen groups Kanto and Johto together. So Team Rocket's team is this. I guess I should have clarified, the Pokemon on the left side are James's, the Pokemon on the right are Jesse's. So let's start with James. Obviously, he has to have Growlithe. It could even be the Growlithe that he has at the mansion. I just like the idea of James actually using his Growlithe to battle, because James is definitely one to care more for his Pokemon than Jesse does, so having Growlithe is certainly a fun time. And Hitmonlee, you're gonna laugh when I say this idea, but like, the only reason I gave James Hitmonlee is because James kicks things. The first Magikarp that he owned when they were on the SSN, he kicked it, and it evolved into a Gyarados. In the Primeape episode when Ash catches Primeape, James kicks Mankey, it evolves into Primeape. James is definitely all about kicking, so I feel like giving him Hitmonlee is just a fun little nod to that. And Murkrow, I think, in my opinion, the only Johto Mon that I feel fits James. So Jesse's side is not really as complicated. Jesse did catch a Shelter in the anime. It helped a Slowpoke evolve into a Slowbro, and then she just lost the Shelter. So I feel like giving her Cloyster just makes sense. And Hitmonchan, just as a little nod to James having Hitmonlee, will be fun. And the Snubbull. For avid anime fans, you should remember the Snubbull from Johto. Madam Much Money Snubbull. And I love the idea of Jesse either kidnapping it or actually capturing it, or Much Money giving it up to her, and the Snubbull being a part of the team. I just love that idea. So let's move on to Hoenn. And I promise, not all of these are going to be as large as this cast. This is just the exception. So next in Hoenn, oh, this is going to be a fun one. So to start, I kept Jesse's Seviper. Realistically, a lot of these Pokédexes, it was hard to pick Mons that fit them. So there might be a couple that seem a bit oddball. So I kept Jesse's Seviper, and I gave James a Zangoose. Because in the Pokédex entries, and even shown in the anime, they're arch rivals. So I like the idea of both of them sending out their Pokemon, and then Zangoose and Viper just start fighting each other instead of Ash and company. And then to fit more with the parallels, I gave James Sableye and Jesse Mawile. And this wasn't initially part of my plan. I mainly just did this so Jesse would have a Mon that bites on James's head instead. But in the Kalos anime, before Jessie evolved her Pumpkaboo into Gourgeist, there was a trainer that was willing to trade her Pumpkaboo for his Mawile. And Jessie imagined what it would be like if she had a Mega Mawile, and it was a whole dream sequence. So I feel like Jessie getting a Mawile being a nice nod to that is just perfect. And James having Sableye, again, just a version exclusive thing. Let me know if any of these choices are actually spot on, or if you would change any of them, let me know. So for Sinnoh, I actually only gave them each one Mon. And those Mons are Mismagius and Honchkrow. So if you remember like 10 minutes ago, not even 10 minutes ago, I gave James a Murkrow in Johto. And this Honchkrow is evolved from that same one. I like the idea of James having a Honchkrow because like, Honchkrow is supposed to be the big Dawn boss, and Giovanni being their direct leader just is a nice callback to that. Even though I'm doing the version exclusive thing again, I like the idea of Jessie having him as Mismagius, because it just looks like a Mon that would fit her. So let's move on to Unova. And in Unova, they were actually a lot more competent. So I kind of reflected that with the mons that they have. At least a little bit. So James having Trubbish, just a callback to coughing, even though I didn't give him coughing. But I just like the idea of James having a Trubbish. Maybe it could evolve into Garbodor. That might be pushing it. And the Galvantula, I gotta be honest, I just looked through the Unova decks and I couldn't see anything that would fit because, as I've mentioned in other videos, the Unova cast in the anime is so large that so many different Pokemon were represented by different teams. So it was hard to pick a Mon that wasn't already owned by Burgundy or Georgia or Stefan. So I decided to give James a Galvantula so he can fight back against Pikachu's electric attacks. Heck, you can even give it Volt Absorb. I think I get that as ability, I'm not sure. And for Jessie, she has Musharna because same story as James's Galvantula. I couldn't think of a better Mon. The Purloin, I just gave her a Purloin because Silent has a fear of Purloins that was never explained. So I feel like this could add some more comedy to Silent and elaborate more on that backstory that was never explained. These last two aren't going to be as long because they didn't have many Mons in Kalos or in Alola. But let's go to Kalos first. So Kalos, Jessie's Mon of choice is a Spritzee. And James has a Trevenant. And that's mainly because I decided to keep the dynamic that they had in Kalos where Jessie has a fully evolved Mon and James has a pre-evolved Mon. Except this time I switched it because normally James has Inkay. So now Jessie having Spritzee is just making sense in my opinion. And James having Trevenant, a callback to Jessie having Gourgeist because they're both ghost grass types in Kalos that evolved by trading. Plus, I just like the idea of Trevenant being a giant menacing figure and James being scared of it, but Trevenant actually is just a lovable oaf. Let's move on to the final one, Alola. I know I included journeys with Go and Koharu before, but I didn't include it with Ash because Ash as well as Team Rocket aren't really traveling through the Galar region, they're just kind of island hopping. So I decided to only have Alola. So Alola was another one that was a hard pick for James. Jessie's was easy because Alola Eradicate just kind of fits, and it is a really nice callback to Butch and Cassidy who have a regular Eradicate. So I like the idea of Jessie having an Alolan one. And James having Passimian, that was just a hard pick. I looked through the decks, but since the Alola decks is so small, it was hard for me to pick a good Mon for James. And I know that I already want Ash to get a Passimian, but if Ash isn't going to get it, give it to James instead. But yeah, I'm not going to have one for Journeys because, first of all, it's not entirely Galar. And second of all, Team Rocket have that machine, so it's not really like they own any of the Pokemon that they have. The only one is James having Morpeko, at least I think. They haven't acknowledged it in 20 odd episodes, so who knows if it's even still around. But I hope you enjoyed. I'm sure that there are some better Mons that I could give them for each season. Realistically, I would have liked to give them a whole bunch of different Mons. One that I thought of just now is in Hoenn. Give them a Pelipper as a nice little foreshadow to the Pelipper Gachapon that they have later on. But I didn't want to give them too many Mons. And I wanted to have them have Mons strictly based in the region that they're traveling in. And the big elephant in the room, I do feel bad for getting rid of Wobbuffet, but with each series that I did make, I feel like there are more comedy aspects. In Johto, they have Snubbull that bites down Meowth's tail, Mawile can bite on James's head. I do feel bad for getting rid of Wobbuffet and keeping Mons like Seviper, but realistically, if you want to keep Wobbuffet, I'm not going to argue with you. Let me know what you think down in the comment section, and if there are any other teams that you think that I should remake from the anime, let me know. Although I'm pretty sure I covered most of it, because I covered all of Ash's, his rivals, his companions, and now Team Rocket. I can't think of anything else that I can do, but if there's anything else that you think that I can do, let me know down in the comment section. If you enjoy, hit that like button down below, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Momentai.